Hi everybody and welcome to the latest Newcastle United news right here on the Toon Review YouTube channel. My name is Paul. Thank you very, very much for tuning in today. Ahead, of course, of the game tonight at Ewood Park, the FA Cup clash between Blackburn and Newcastle United. Full commentary here on the Toon Review, starting at 7:15 with a 7:45 kickoff. But we'll start with that headline there. You can see Newcastle chasing Kubo, the Japanese international. News in the media this morning that Newcastle United are prepared to pay the €60 million release clause to Real Sociedad for the Japanese international. Now, he is 22 years old. He is a winger. He's a very, very exciting prospect. But one thing is known is that Newcastle United will have to have a hell of a fight on their hands to get him, because this guy is in high demand. He was a former Real Madrid player. Now, we don't know if Real Madrid have anything in his current contract with Sociedad that would say that they have first option to sign him back. It may well be a case that Real Madrid bring him back to Real Madrid and sell him on again, to make more money. Real Madrid have been renowned for doing that in the past, and that could be an option for the Spanish Giants. However, Newcastle United and Arsenal are the two teams that have come out and said they are prepared to pay the €60 million release clause for Kubo. Now, this guy is a very, very good player. And if Newcastle United are targeting him, I would suggest it's for the right-hand side of midfield to take over the reins from Miggy Almiron next season. Eddie Howe is a massive, massive fan of the player, as are the Newcastle hierarchy. We've watched him a couple of times apparently as well. But there is, as I say, very, very stern competition from some of the giants in world football, including quite a few English teams. Man United, Man City and Liverpool are also interested in the player. However, there is only two players that have really stipulated that they're prepared to meet the release clause, and that is Arsenal and Newcastle United. So whatever's going on with FFP, if Newcastle United are confident of coming out and saying that they're prepared to meet the release clause for Kubo, then it suggests to me that we might be in for a very tidy summer if we're willing to pay that kind of money, and FFP might not be such an issue when it comes to the summer transfer window. But obviously only time will tell on that. But it is exciting. I mean, he's a Japanese international, as I say, very good winger, very good with the ball at his feet, very pacey, and he's just probably what we need to go onto that right-hand side to improve the situation there. So let me know in the comments, is Kubo something you're interested in? Do you know much about him? Certainly at the moment, he's doing really well in La Liga for Sociedad. Of course, we got Isak from Sociedad, so it's not a bad place for players to go, is Real Sociedad. They're doing okay. They have their ups and downs in Spain, of course, Sociedad over the years, but they do generate some good players and bring players on, which is exactly what's happened to Kubo since he's gone there from Real Madrid. He has now really established himself as a top player and worth a lot of money. But let me know, would he be someone that excites you in the summer to go for him as a possible replacement for Miggy Almiron? Let me know in the comments below. Now, a very interesting interview with Christian Purslow has come out in the media as he chats about the FFP situation. And when I first read the report, I thought, is he actually having a dig at Newcastle United here, with regards to the money they've got and FFP? However, that doesn't seem to be the case when I've actually read through what Christian Purslow has actually said. He seems to be in support of Newcastle United. And I'm going to read a little bit out from the interview just to get your take on it and see what you think, because he seems to be backing Newcastle United here and the fans, saying that it is a very, very seismic moment for the fans when a manager like Eddie Howe has to come out and say we have to sell to buy when we have the richest owners in the world. It doesn't make any sense and it doesn't benefit anyone. And if anything, I've said in times gone by that it affects the Premier League, in my opinion. FFP is stopping clubs from bringing big players in. They will go elsewhere. And the TV companies will also look elsewhere across the world. These world TV stations that broadcast the Premier League claim it to be the best in the world, etc. But if we're not getting the best players anymore into the football, into this league, then we're not going to get the television revenue. It affects the Premier League, and it will have a knock-on effect for everything to do with football in the future, in my opinion. But Christian Purslow was very sensible with what he said. A very interesting interview because the headline actually says Newcastle United's financial fair play stance blasted by former Liverpool and Aston Villa director. And I thought, That's a little strange. Why is he blasting our stance? We haven't done anything. We haven't broken the FFP rules. We haven't. So it was kind of a misleading headline. However, when you get further down into the crux of it, Christian Purslow actually says, once he sort of the report says about who Newcastle United signed straight after the takeover, and then suddenly they're on the brink of financial fair play limits, and they can't then explore the transfer market, and obviously having to sell St. Maximan to bring in the likes of Sandro Tonali and Harvey Barnes. So this is what Purslow said in an interview to Talk Sport. He says, I think that these rules never ended up where they were meant to go. These rules were initially initiated by Michel Platini. Say no more. It was a French-led way to tackle the ever-increasing superiority of English clubs. In 2008, 3 English clubs participated in the semi-finals of what Michel viewed as the European Cup. We call it the Champions League. 2 of them, Liverpool and Manchester United, were swimming in debt from their takeovers. Chelsea had a large amount of shareholder debt. They began as a crusade to not allow debt in the sport because it was risky, damaging, and it was enabling clubs to spend crazy money. There was no mention of debt in the final drafting of FFP in 2010-2011. He then went on to describe Eddie Howe's admission that Newcastle would have to sell players to bring in new faces during certainly back in January, as a seismic moment for the average football fan, and insisted that Newcastle's owners should have had more freedom to develop the club and put their ambitious plans into action. So this is where I think he sort of does back us up here. He said, it changed. It became about clubs breaking even, living with their resources. I think that this has had a series of unintended consequences. The most obvious one being that when Eddie Howe said in the first week of January that we're going to have to sell players to buy, that was a seismic moment for the average football fan like me. This club is owned by an impossibly wealthy owner who is highly ambitious. We've seen what they've done in golf. They didn't buy Newcastle to be a mid-table side. They want to challenge the elite, the establishment. Very interesting words there, by the way, saying the elite and the establishment, because we know them as, of course, the cartel. So I think he's referring to them as the establishment. They've got the money. There's no question of sustainability. They're using real cash, but they're having to sell players, ironically, probably to the big 6 who benefit, which is exactly what we as Newcastle United fans have said for a long time now regarding FFP and how much of a pain in the bloody arse it is. He went on to say that feels wrong. The first unintended consequence is that we shouldn't be using these rules to prevent really well-funded new owners restructuring and improving clubs in the period after a takeover. I would like to see a reboot of the rules which treats post-clubs takeovers differently. Maybe over a period of time, maybe 3 years. And if they submit their plans which involve losses, they have to be funded with real cash guaranteed. So I'm intrigued by that interview because the reason is, we know as Newcastle fans that we have been hampered by FFP. Not, definitely in this winter transfer window and possibly in the summer, of course. So, we are having to build now for this coming summer, but again, we'll be hampered at some point by FFP. It depends what the revenue is that Newcastle generate. Obviously, we've got the Adidas deal coming in, seller deal, all that kind of stuff is now incoming to the club, which will expand our FFP, and we can spend a little bit more money. However, it's very interesting there, talking about the establishment and who will benefit from Newcastle United not being able to sign these big players. So what he's saying is, there should be a 3-year period after the takeover where Newcastle shouldn't be restricted by the FFP rules to a certain degree, where they can, re-establish the club, pour the money into the club, get the players they need in a 3-year period. And I quite agree with that. And then whatever the FFP rules are after that, then put the restrictions in. But the way Newcastle United have been, constantly... It's like a dark shadow over the club, isn't it, when it comes to transfers? Everybody keeps mentioning FFP, and it's a pain in the arse. Everybody knows it's a pain in the arse, and everybody knows that it has to go. It's just crap. So it does need a reinventing without a shadow of a doubt. But again, in the comments, let me know what you think of Christian Purslow's interview. Do you think he's talking sense? Should there be a 3-year period maybe after a takeover so that the new owners can establish the club in a better way than what they've been run? Certainly for our point of view, after the way Mike Ashley treated us, give us an opportunity to get some more players in, to build up a good squad and actually challenge. because Christian's right. It does benefit the big six, without a shadow of a doubt, FFP at the minute. But let me know what you think. I'm intrigued. Elliot Anderson has been missing now for quite some time, of course, with that nasty injury that he had. He came out yesterday in Eddie Howe's press conference that Elliot Anderson wasn't aware of any injury. It was soreness he complained of in his back, and of course, we know the story from then on, and he's been out a very long time. But one thing is that he's itching to get back. Now, Eddie did say in his press conference that, Targett and Anderson were both close to coming back. But media reports this morning have suggested that Anderson is a little bit more ahead and may be involved in the squad tonight. Certainly, there's no chance in hell of him starting. I'd be amazed. However, getting him back on the bench, maybe getting him 15, 20 minutes at the end of the game, providing things are going okay for us, of course. You never know with Newcastle United these days. But providing we're on top in the game, we're winning, why not give him 15, 20 minutes to get some minutes under his belt, start the match fitness process, because if one thing, we've missed Elliot Anderson, we've missed his, I think his versatility. He can play up on the left, he can play further deeper into midfield, and certainly the way our midfield has been over the last, month, we desperately need somebody to come in there. And obviously the return in Joe Willock is a massive plus point, but also Elliot Anderson. If Elliot Anderson's back fit again, it gives Eddie Howe more options in midfield. Miley's played an awful lot of games for a 17-year-old. Sean Longstaff is, just terrible at the minute. He offers nothing, which I'm disappointed because I'm a Sean Longstaff fan, and I'm really disappointed in his performances recently. However, maybe a bit of time out will just recharge the batteries for Sean. But having Willock and Elliot Anderson back will certainly give us a new lease of life in midfield and give Eddie Howe much more options. Certainly now that Harvey Barnes is back as well, Isak's back. So we're getting the big names back, but it's all about what we do on the pitch and how Eddie sets us up. So it'll be great to see Elliot Anderson back. And finally, Joe Linton, a player who is massively, massively important to Newcastle United, as of course stipulated by Eddie Howe yesterday in his press conference, explaining how much of a miss Big Joe's been, and that there isn't many midfielders in the Premier League like Joe Linton, and we know there's not. Joe Linton is a very, very exquisite midfielder since he was put there by Eddie Howe a couple of years ago, of course. He has gone on from strength to strength, and he's become one of Newcastle United's best players, most important players. And the physicality and the drive that we miss from Big Joe when he's not in the side is there for all to see. He is a huge miss. Now, the contract negotiations were apparently a worry because a lot of media are suggesting that Dan Ashworth, who was leading the charge for the Joe Linton contract, things had broken down. But now it seems like Darren Eales, Amanda and Mairdad are all going to be sitting with Joe Linton discussing the new contract. And personally, as a fan, I feel a lot more confident with that because what's happened with Dan Ashworth over the last recent weeks, his head was clearly turned by Manchester United. So, him doing a deal for Joe Linton, who is one of our biggest players, seemed very, very wrong. Very wrong. And I'm pleased that now Darren Eales, who is very committed to the club, and of course Amanda and Mairdad, are all going to be taking charge of this contract process with Joe Linton. I feel a lot more confident now that things will get done. And Joe Linton not only will get the money that he deserves, but get the contract that he deserves. And the club will also get, they will also get Joe Linton signed, sealed, delivered for a long period of time, which we need. Joe Linton is a tremendous footballer, and the rise from the flames, if you like, for Joe Linton has been incredible. He's gone from getting hammered by everybody, including us here on this channel. He's now my favourite player, and he's a huge, huge miss for Newcastle United because we just miss that physicality in midfield, don't we? We just don't have it there. Bruno's sort of tiptoeing around at the minute with the yellow card situation and doesn't seem to want to put himself into a big tackle, but neither does the rest of the midfield. But Joe Linton loves that physicality. He loves getting stuck in. He will give it his all. So to get him up on a new contract will probably be Newcastle's best bit of business if they can get that done sooner rather than later. And now he's out injured, for me would be the perfect time for those guys to all sit down and get this contract done. Because he's out injured, he can't play. So the more important thing for me is getting the contract done for Joe Linton. Let me know if you agree with that or not. But there you go, guys. That is the news from today. Thank you very much for tuning in. If you have enjoyed it and you like what you see, don't forget to give it the thumbs up before you leave. And of course, if you're new and you like what you see and you're not subscribed, hit that subscribe button. It is free to do so, but don't forget to hit the notification bell, which will let you know when we go live or we upload any future videos. We are back, of course, tonight. If you're watching this on the Tuesday afternoon, we're back tonight at 7:15 for Matchday Live, Blackburn Rovers versus Newcastle United from Ewood Park in the FA Cup. But enjoy the rest of your Tuesday, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Take care.